Okay, welcome. This is Samesh from, I don't know, from Forest Row. And I'm here talking to Rachel. Welcome, Rachel, to this podcast. Looking forward to getting to know Rachel and understanding a little bit more about the local elections, getting to know Rachel and, getting to understand what Rachel's standing for, and also understanding a little bit more how the local elections, how they work, how the councillors work, how members of the public can actually interact with the local council, and so we can just become a little bit more informed. So
Yeah,
welcome, Rachel.
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Can you give us a little introduction about yourself and what made you become a councillor, or your experience as a councillor?
Yeah, so I'm a district councillor already, and I'm standing again in these elections. I represent Hartfield ward on Wealden District Council. So Hartfield ward is not just Hartfield village, or Hartfield parish. It also goes into the edge of Forest Row. So a lot of people who live in around Emerson and along Hartfield Road, Royston Road that way, on the way out of Forest Road that way, are actually in Hartfield ward. They didn't used to be. They change boundaries all the time. It's desperately confusing. So you can be in Forest Road Parish and Hartfield ward. You can also live in Ashurst Wood and live in Hartfield ward, because Hartfield kind of goes round, and it goes all the way over to Crowborough. You can live in Crowborough and be in Hartfield ward, Crowborough St John's. It's Hammerwood, Holteye, obviously Hartfield, Commerce Hatch, Chuck Hatch, down to Black Boys. So yeah, it's a wide ranging ward. I got involved. I was involved with Friends of the River Medway, and I heard that the Green Party were looking for someone to stand in Hartfield, and I'd already been thinking. I've been thinking a long time about politics and whether I should get involved and whether that's something for me. I was kind of grew up in a very politically aware family, and always had this sense that politics mattered for me and for society. It's kind of a sense of sort of civic duty, I suppose. It makes a difference to the lives that we live and quality of life for lots of different people. And increasingly also care for nature as well. It's all very political. And so I was already thinking that this might be an interesting direction for me. And when this came up, I just had a chat with Patricia, who was already Green Party councillor for Forest Row. And she kind of ushered me in. So I was standing very quickly, it happened very fast. And it was a great experience, really. You have to, you knock on a lot of doors, get to know people as you're trying to get elected. Well, not get to know people, but you get a sense of people. And it was it was a lovely way to kind of connect with more of the community, and hear what people are concerned about. And so it's been good. I got elected in a by-election because the previous councillor in Hartfield ward died. It's always been held by a Conservative, and so I was elected in December 21. So I've been, not quite a year and a half. It will be a year and a half come May. So it's not very long. It wasn't very long to decide to run again. If you see what I mean, I had to decide after only been there a few months. But I've learned a lot. I was just about to start talking about my previous experience, but I should probably shut up for a bit. Or do you want me to? Do you want me to share that?
That's great. That's great. Please carry on.
Yeah. So my previous experience is completely different in some ways. So I basically always worked in the arts and culture. And the biggest thing I did, as sort of my major contribution to that, I suppose, was that I set up and ran a women's film festival in London, which ran for a decade, and the organisation continues now supporting women filmmakers. But that was a big sort of international celebration of women filmmakers, and it kind of made its mark on the film industry and brought the conversation about gender inequality into the film industry and connected with audiences. And only 7% of feature films at the time were made by women. So it's only actually improved a bit, but it's improved a lot in other areas, like what we see on our tellies has improved a lot, and the conversation has become completely front and center. So the reason I mentioned that, I suppose, is that it's arts and culture, but it is also political. It's also had a campaigning message. It was a difference I was trying to make. And I guess a lot. So I said maybe that says something about me, that most of the work I've done has some kind of desire to help make the world a better place in a really basic, childish way of putting it, I suppose. But obviously a lot of the skills from doing arts leadership, there's sort of forming partnerships and alliances, collaborations, there's communication staff, there's just organizing things, making things happen, responding to lots of different types of stakeholders and lots of different kinds of groups. So I was really happy to bring what I could. I guess for me, it's about serving communities and serving nature. And that's why I do it. And that's what I would like to do, whatever I do. So that's kind of why I do all the bureaucracy and go through all all the details and the bits that are sometimes a bit of a chore, and then the bits which drive me are where you can see any way that you can speak out for the land and nature a bit more and hold protection and make a difference there, or where you can work for communities and help connect communities to the kind of system that actually influences all of our lives, whether we realize it or not. It influences our day-to-day lives. And so it's just trying to use my voice and my productivity and my skills and experience for that, in service to that end, really. That's why I do it.
Wonderful. Yeah. So that comes from a sense of serving the community, which is what you're doing. Can you tell us what's it like in the day-to-day life of a district councillor, and what is the difference between a local councillor and a district councillor?
Now, because I would say I am a district councillor is a local councillor. Do you mean a parish councillor? Or
yeah, because I guess there's two different sort of elections happening at the same time. Is it the local parish councillor who I think there's about 15 places?
Yeah, the parish council.
Yeah, and then there's the district council. I think for Forest Row, there's two people taking place in that election, which is it Patricia and Rowena?
Yep.
And then yourself in Hartfield, are you standing against anybody?
Yes, there's a Conservative candidate called Shady Robinson. I don't know anything about her, actually. I've been trying to find out, but she's been announced, so I haven't read or haven't met her. I know she's lived locally for a long time, but I haven't met her, or there hasn't been any material out. So I can't say much about her.
So there's two of you. There's the two of you.
Yeah, it's a straight choice between Greens and Conservatives there as well. That's right. So it's
okay. And well, what's it like in the day-to-day life? What does the district councillor do on a day-to-day basis?
Clear about the parish is obviously a group of people who are hyper local, because in the parish it's like sort of the village, really, isn't it? And they're hyper local, and they're all serving the village, and they will hopefully be able to enable lots more creativity and community projects and all that kind of stuff, and really exciting things locally from within the village. Wealden Council is the whole of Wealden, so we're the very northern tip of it. It goes all the way down to the coast, either side of Eastbourne, and across towards Tunbridge Wells. We've got Kent on that side. We're right near Mid Sussex, West Sussex, so we're on the kind of northwest. We're in the northwest corner around here. Obviously, Hartfield's a little bit more in, but we're very much in the northern bit. The whole of Wealden has a district council. They meet down in Hailsham, so sometimes I think we feel a bit disconnected from it. But the policies and the anything to do with planning. So a major thing that we do is look at planning applications. So planning stuff, waste collection. They're the two things that people often interact with. Also, kind of benefits, things like this go through the district council. So it's one representative per ward sits on that council. So the reason there's only a couple of us standing is because there's only one seat for the ward. So obviously the parish council is everyone's from the parish. There's a whole little cluster. You need to have 12 or 15 people or whatever it is.
Is that the same for Hartfield as well? Or is
Yeah, Hartfield has its own parish council as well. So every and Withyham has its own parish council. So my ward covers 3 parishes: Hartfield, Forest Row parish I also interact with, and Withyham parish as well, because Hartfield ward goes that way. So some people have more parishes than that within their ward, but you have one person who represents the whole of that ward on Wealden Council. So that's what I need to do, I suppose, is to represent the needs and wishes of this community at Wealden Council. Like, really crude example, just to make sure that not all the money or all the choices are going down south. I mean, that, you know, that's just a crude example. But yes, yeah, so I'm representing those people. Also, when people are dealing with the planning system, whether they're trying to get planning permission for something, or whether they're really worried because maybe the green fields near them are about to turn into a housing estate and they're not sure it's right, or maybe they're fighting to protect ancient woodland or whatever, then I can help with that process because I'm within Wealden Council. So I sit on planning committee as well at the moment. But each district councillor has the power to bring one of those planning applications into planning committee and say, actually, I'm not sure I agree with this one. If so, the officers who work at council look at it first and they analyse it, and they might just go, no way. But they might go, yeah, okay, there's pressure to build loads more houses. We're going to go with this one. This is why. Then it will come to me if it's within Hartfield ward. And I then have the power to say, these are the reasons why I don't think that should be here. It has to go to committee. And then it depends how many people, then it's up to the committee. At the moment, the Green Party has 2 seats on the planning committee. Hopefully after this elections, we'll then have more. This is a really good reason for voting for parties that share your values, is because the more seats one party has, the more seats they get on different committees. And it's in those committees that decisions are made. Do you see what I mean? So it's all about having more and more influence. So I can call something. If I was only a district councillor and not on planning committee, I could call something into planning committee. I could then speak to that. So say there was a group in the local community who were really upset because this bit of woodland was about to be destroyed, or they want to preserve this green field. I could represent them and their land, really, speak at planning committee, but I can't vote. That goes to the committee. Now, because I'm on the committee, I get to be someone who votes and debates and speaks and advocates for planning committees that come from planning applications, that come from all over Wealden. So it's having a bit more influence in that way. I can't change the system, but I can advocate within it, and I can use it to, for, I think, the best advantage for communities and nature. I can try to, and if I think it's not working, I can say that. I can speak out. So there's different communities. Planning is one which tends to have the most local involvement. I mean, most people get in touch with me about planning. There are other things too. So this sewage in the rivers is a really big thing that I've also been quite involved with and worked on quite a lot.
So a local person, would they first be in touch with their parish councillor, and then the parish councillor would sort of upgrade the issue to you, or do people come straight to you with the issues?
Come straight to me. Yeah, you don't need to. The parish council has its own. Well, the parish council does comment on any planning application. So if we're talking about planning, because it depends what the issue is. If you're talking about planning, the parish council comments on all those applications, and that goes into the report. They're not necessarily listened to. No one's, but they can be. It's important that they get to say that. That's part of it. But you don't need to do that. You can come direct to me. You can also, with planning, it's really important to directly write in yourself. So on the planning committee website, you can object to a planning application or support a planning application directly. But if you're concerned about anything, you can talk to me. I can explain how that system works, and I can see what I can do. And I will be honest, letting you know what I can and can't do, because I can't change the system, but I can help people navigate it.
Okay, so on that point, when you say people can approach you, how would people? What is the what is the process of approaching somebody like a district councillor? Do you have to write a letter? Is it a phone call? Is it an email?
Yeah, you
Is there
can.
some type of forum where people could actually, approach you on like a weekly basis or something like that?
Yep. So there's three main ways you can contact me. Email. Now everybody has a formal Wealden email. So every councillor at Wealden will be councillor.firstname.secondname@wealden.gov.uk, and that would always come through. But I also publicise my email, which is green.millward@gmail.com. Millward is MILLWARD. So green.millward@gmail.com. And people write to me directly there. I also share my mobile number everywhere, which is 07866412395. So anyone can speak to me, because I have quite a lot of elderly people in my ward who just don't use email at all. So I make sure they do have my number when I go around, or it's on my literature when I put something through the door, and one of my team puts something through the door. And then I've also started holding community forums in Hartfield, which has been great. At the parish council offices in Hartfield, which is like the old station in Hartfield, just at the end of Edenbridge Road. It's kind of near Nick the Butcher's, just further down.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 of those so far. So I will keep doing those if elected, but I'll do them sort of quarterly. I think that's about right. I mean, I think if you do something weekly, I don't think enough people come really to make it worthwhile. But it's been really great, because we've had a loose agenda. So we're going to talk about local planning things that people are worried about. We're going to talk about the rivers and what's happening with sewage pollution in the rivers and how people can help, because I'm starting to get going with sort of citizen science programs where people are testing the water, and working with angling societies and other groups on that. And what else was on the agenda? Oh, so the winter one, it was like warm spaces and how to get support if you or your neighbours need that. And the Ashdown Forest, what's going on there? Does it need more protection? Because the Ashdown Forest is, a lot of that's in my ward as well. Obviously, people very concerned about that. And so a chance to sort of share information about that kind of thing. So there'll be a loose agenda, but actually what I did in each forum, literally go around the room and every single person says who they are and the one thing they're really hoping to discuss. So we had about 40 people at the first one. Everything that everyone wants to discuss goes on a big flip chart, and then we divvy it up and we make sure those things get discussed. It's obviously in that kind of environment, you're not necessarily going to bottom out every individual concern, because you won't have time, because I keep things to time, but for everyone's sake. But things get raised and aired, and actually it was really helpful to talk about some pretty sticky planning things with the developers in the room and with landowners in the room, and actually just people sharing their worries or even sometimes their anger about something, but actually coming up to respond and explain how they are responding to that. And I'm not there to then share my opinion on that particularly, but just to sort of hold the space so it's aired, and then again just to say how I can specifically help, and explain how the system works, because most people don't just know how all this works. It's complex. It's overly complex. And because what you haven't mentioned is that we also have county council. So, for example, a thing which often people are wanting to talk to me about is potholes, and the state of our roads is literally abysmal. I mean, it is shocking. We're in this wealthy corner of England, and our roads are like, I mean, I really hate the term, but they're not first world, are they? Do you know what I mean? I really hate that about the world, but I'm like, it is shocking. And so I get a lot of people talking to me about that, and that's great that they do, and I care a lot about that. But actually, the district council doesn't deal with roads, the county council does. So you have Councillor Georgia Taylor, who's the county councillor. She's Green Party as well, which is great because we have a really close relationship, which makes it easy. So I'm constantly chatting to her, CCing her, emailing her, forwarding stuff to her, and she is advocating all the time with highways, and trying to get more, trying to
So on that
get
on that particular issue, because it seems to be quite important these days. What is the general state of that process? Because it just seems like you say, the roads are bad. They're getting worse and worse and worse. I haven't
Oh,
seen any action in terms of like, you know, I would imagine if we've had a really bad winter, which we have, which, you know, shouldn't, you know, that happens, that should be, I guess, planned for as well. And the roads haven't been made properly, so now they're falling, degrading in some way. And then, you know, you start to see that they're degrading. There should be at least some attempt to repair them, and even if there isn't the amount of resources, there should be still some level of repairs going on. But I've literally seen nobody, and they just seem to be
well,
getting worse and worse and worse. What is the state of play?
it is, I mean, it is state of play is crisis, isn't it? It's absolutely dreadful. I mean, what's actually happening is that they are getting repaired. It happens in the dead of night often, and the repairs are lasting a couple of days. I mean, they're that bad. And so what's happened, and have been talking to Georgia about this a lot, and you know, she's putting the pressure on all she can at county. But what's happened is that East Sussex County Council, it's been Conservative run for a very, very long time. They've obviously made some really bad decisions along the way, basically. But in terms of choosing a contractor, so it used to be that the council had its own staff, its own teams of road repairers, and that was the best. Actually, that was just the best model because they held them to account. They were, you know, employees. There was good management. It was sort of sewn in, as it were. And that's when we used to get road resurfacing and all kinds of things like this. Now it's contracted out. And East Sussex County Council apparently went for the cheapest quote. It's not always wise to go for the cheapest quote. You sometimes get the worst service. And so this has been just appalling. I don't think anyone thinks it's been okay. They're also self-monitoring, which is just a joke, isn't it? You have a contractor and they're self-monitoring, so they report whether they've done it or not and whether they've done it well, but they don't necessarily even go back to check. It's just awful. It's just, but what it is bad management. It's just, that isn't a good way to run things, and it doesn't take a genius. You know, it's just common sense wise, some really bad decisions have been made, and we're now suffering the consequences of that. There's a ray of hope in that the contractor will soon change. They have chosen a different company. Apparently, they should be better. But we are still in a reality where the budgets available are just not enough. Now, that's not all the fault of East Sussex County Council, because the central government has been reducing and reducing and reducing the money that goes locally. That's a Conservative way of doing things. They're smaller government and they keep it central, and there's less and less and less locally, which means that as councils and as councillors, we can do so much less than we would like to. Even, I mean, you know, even if you're in the dominant political parties, so I know Green councillors where they run the council and they are the majority, and they can make a lot of difference. I mean, they really can, but they can't do everything they want to because the central government is blocking all the time. So it's a reality of political decisions and some really like poor management, I think. I mean, it definitely doesn't have to be as bad as it is here, because it's not this bad in Kent. It's not this bad in Surrey. When you drive out of East Sussex, it is significantly bad here. So this particular contractor must have been particularly bad. But I would say in general, we're not doing brilliantly as a nation. But it's lack of investment, it's lack of priority. You know, budgets are political. There's always a motivation. What do you prioritize? How much are you spending where? And then there's a kind of good sound management thing where you work things efficiently but sustainably, and you make better choices in terms of how and who you're employing to do it. But we're sadly, it's now going to just cost an absolute fortune to get us out of this. We really need resurfacing, and that apparently is way out of budget.
Wow. Well, that's not sounding good.
It is not sounding good. And I guess, you know, what we can do is just continue to speak truth, put a light on that, you know, and make it really clear to people what's going on there. Try and encourage people. Actually, like, using your vote does matter in terms of being honest about problems, getting people who want to manage things better and prioritize communities' experience and local services. Ultimately, we do need a change of government as well, because we do, this whole system is breaking. And this is all a consequence of that. We need to rethink things pretty.
yeah, in your estimation, what is how is the system working? Obviously, we've had the system over how many centuries or whatever. How is it, you know, in your estimation personally, is the system working well?
The whole political system. Well, no, I mean, I would love a different political system here, definitely. Like, I mean, Green Party would obviously love a different political system here. We'd love proportional representation where every vote mattered, and parliamentary seats were distributed according to percentage of vote. It would mean that we had coalition governments, we had collaboration going on, we had a lot more happening cross-party. There's this weird myth that's been perpetuated, which drives me mad, that somehow that would be unstable. I'm like, what? What's unstable is going blue, red, blue, 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 red. It's like, that's kind of, that's not stable. What I would like to have is a different balance of parties and individuals focusing on issues and bringing the best minds together to work hard to solve problems. Like, I would like to see coalition governments that shifted each time but didn't flip, you know what I mean? That, because that, I think what that would encourage is longer term decision making for the future. Whereas what you've got now is decision making for the next election, which might be in 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter what happens further down the line. What matters is your soundbite now, and that's pathetic. I'm not interested in that. So I would really like a shift of system. I'd like the House of Parliament to not be two sides shouting at each other, but to be a circle where people sit in council and bring their best. I'd like it to be a system that really does inspire the best of people and uses the best of humanity to make decisions for future generations. But it doesn't. It's sound bites and, bringing people down and, incredibly short term and irresponsible. Therefore, that's basically the reality.
Great. That's wonderful, because I think it's important to just start to explore these other ideas. Just even if you feel like it's a massive system that's bearing down on us and so ingrained, but unless we start to explore and look at different ways of actually solving these issues, we just not just accept the status quo, but at least explore and converse and discuss these different ways of being, and in the hope that one day we can look into the future and the system has changed in a way that actually benefits us, rather than what feels like now this problem with potholes.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think that's right. And I think it's always good to, internationally, people have systems, proportional representation systems that have worked really well. There has been no major crisis. I mean, nothing is perfect. There is no perfect system. It will never be perfect. But I feel like we're tending the other direction. But you can look, I mean, potholes in Germany, apparently they have this brilliant machine that comes along, perfect circle, cuts the hole in a perfect circle around the pothole and fills it in a perfect circle. So there's no corners, so it doesn't kind of come off again. Do you know what I mean? And that you have this, I don't know, there are different people are solving these problems in different ways. You also have different kind of political situation there, different way the health system's set up, different way, whatever. We can look at lots of different places and see what works and be inspired and influenced by it. It's crazy to just look at the way things are here and only sit within it. We should be looking out and saying, well, actually, it's that thing works brilliantly there. Why is education so strong in that country? What are we doing wrong?
Have you had any chance to look into the Swiss system?
I don't know much about the Swiss system.
Yeah, so apparently in Switzerland, sorry about that. Apparently in Switzerland, people get to vote on a regular basis on particular issues that affect their lives. Right. So, for example, if the government has a decision to make, either the people can put a decision forward that they want to make a change, and then what they have to do is they have to get a certain amount of support for that particular change. And if they get a certain amount of support, then they get the opportunity to vote. And if they get the opportunity to vote, then they can make that change. And if anybody in the government comes up with a particular law or a particular change that they need to make, the citizens get to vote on every single one of those changes. So people are voting on a regular basis and they're regularly involved in the political process. And it means that we don't, for example, have these political parties which are in for 4 years and then we don't get to actually make any changes for
No,
that
that,
particular time.
yeah, it's very interesting because I think, yeah, you're meant to be representing people and the community, not just getting elected and then doing stuff to make you look good for it and then not getting elected, you know. And it's that relationship, that ongoing relationship. I mean, I would say, you know, I love being in the Green Party. I think it does a really good job of holding a vision for a different sort of democracy. And this is part of what I love about it. The fact that it is asking for system change. It's a small party, but it's got some brilliant people in it. It was really nice going to conference and just kind of going, oh, people on this political stage talking sense, just using and with integrity and with passion and bringing their whole selves. Like, you know, of course, again, nothing is perfect. Everything has complexity, and you always have a spectrum of opinion within a party. You always have lots of diversity within it, and that's good, that's strong. But I was just felt encouraged and at home really amongst people who really cared and are really trying to think about the way things could be different, and trying to do that for people and planet.
Just before we go, there's one question I think would be really good to get clear. How can we improve the education of people in terms of around the whole interaction with the local governmental system, to how we can improve the people's ability to participate in their local government and the understanding of the local government and what's actually going on. For example, your quarterly meetings with in some type of forum type way. How do you communicate that with the local community so that not just the same people that are plugged into the same systems, get to hear about those things because they're interested, so they put that effort in, but because other people don't really get to hear about it, they don't even think of or even have the choice of becoming involved.
Yeah, so obviously this is where local politics, all the different types of local politics, are great because you can have a really direct relationship with people. I mean, we literally deliver newsletters through every door. So that's pretty much everybody in the ward hears something. And then in one of those newsletters, it will have the date of the next community forum. What I'm planning to do, I haven't done this yet, but what I'm planning to do next is to set up a MailChimp and email newsletter that people can sign up to as well, so that you could get more frequent updates because I think in the run up to an election, there's quite a lot of literature going through people's doors, from only from the Green Party at the moment around here. So, but from us, but generally in between time, it's quarterly. So what I'd like to do is also have a sign up here for the e-newsletter that you could get more like monthly. So there's a bit more immediate response. Obviously, social media, I do use Facebook, and you can find my councillor page on that. The Wealden Green Party is obviously on Facebook as well, and hopefully we'll start to do this e-newsletter thing. So it's things like that. But it's really, at local politics, you do get to put information through people's doors. You do get to knock on doors and talk to people, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm literally, after this, I have to go and knock on some doors and have people some information and talk to them. So you have like a moment of direct contact, and then people get in their hand my email address, my phone number. It's that direct. I think the community forums have been brilliant and are really important. I definitely want to do more of those. I definitely want to get, for the whole of Wealden Green Party, I want to help the digital comms just get better, just more stuff on social media, more interactive stuff. I think e-newsletters would be really important. I know Patricia's having an event in Forest Row soon about local democracy, kind of explaining the different tiers and how it works. She's brilliant at that. That'll be really useful. Yeah. So I guess it's that in person, in writing, and digital. That's all you can do, right?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think that's in some ways that's where the app will become quite handy.
Yes,
because
for sure.
have you downloaded the app? Okay, it doesn't matter. Lots of people haven't yet.
I just say this is my this is your local councillor is. This is what you say, because I could have lied then. It would make him feel better, but it wouldn't have been true. So
Good. I love your integrity. That's what we need. We need in politics. We need
I'm
way
so
more
sorry I haven't
integrity.
done it yet. I will be downloading it. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, anything to keep us connected, right? It's good.
Great. So
all
with
good.
the app, for example, like it's not for everybody. I totally get that. Some people will use it, some people will work, just like any of
Yeah.
these systems of
Some people
communication.
won't cope with an app. Yeah.
Yeah. But for the people that do, and I think especially for elderly people, people that are above 50, above 60, I think an app is brilliant because it gives like a lot of people won't use Facebook. They find it too confusing, too overwhelming, all the ads, all the, the stuff. A lot of elderly people also won't use WhatsApp. But I think an app
Yeah.
really makes it easier for an elderly person to get access to information because it just makes it simple. It's straightforward. They don't have to wade through loads of different stuff. They're not getting thrown by different stuff. Also, our newsletter is really good as well. So, with the type of things that you're doing, interacting with the community, please just let us know, and I'll keep in touch, and then we can communicate that stuff through the app, which is fantastic. So far we've had 350 people downloading it. I'm about to send out a leaflet of 5,000 to all the local communities around Forest Row, and then also the newsletter has 320 people on it so far. So it's another great way of connecting with people and communicating that information. But thank you so much. Thanks so much for the time and your effort. Maybe we can do this again. I think it's be really great to do something on a regular basis with people that are locally connected, that have an impact or can have an impact on the things that really matter to local people. It's great. It's really good to be in contact, and to be able to you get an opportunity to explain some of these things, and maybe we get an opportunity to communicate this with more people, so they feel more educated, and they can connect with you more as a person, and your willingness to serve, and they get to know you better.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds really good. Thanks so much.
Great, Rachel. Thanks a lot for your time. Have a good day.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.